Hey guys, it's Kevin, my review for the season finale of Big Brother 20. And look guys, I know that I have been a bit jaded and a bit, more negative on, Big Brother in these last couple weeks, but they've just been very boring. They just have not been, very interesting, and especially considering where we were in the first 5 to 6 weeks of this game, this last half has been kind of a slog to get through. However, I was willing to put that all aside for this finale. I was really hoping this could be a very satisfying finale. We could get that, we could get those really great speeches from both Tyler and Kaycee or JC. We could really see why they are in the final three. We could get some really good stuff with the jury, and maybe this finale could remind me why this season is probably one of the best we've had in a while. And instead, what I got was maybe the worst Big Brother finale I think I've seen. This was a bad finale. Holy shit, I don't know what happened here. This is easily the worst Big Brother finale I have seen put together in a while. And I watched the Celebrity Big Brother one, mind you. The one that had a Final 5 down to a Final 4 down to a Final 3. And somehow that had more cohesion than this season, than this finale did. I don't know what happened here exactly, but there's just, there's so much to talk about, but there's also so little to talk about, and that's mainly because most of this finale was either extremely rushed, extremely brief, or non-existent. There was so much going on in this finale, but there was also so little, and we're just gonna get into it right now. So, this first part of the finale, I'm going to be very, very brief with, just because the episode was, and I'm gonna say it right now. Easily the biggest problem with this episode is the fact that it was a 90-minute finale, and I've ranted about this many times, but I thought last year they were really starting to learn. They were starting to learn that 90-minute finales, they're just not enough. There's too much to get through, there's too much to cover in 90 minutes, and they had that really great 2-hour finale to an awful season. But it gave us one of the better finales I've seen from Big Brother because it felt very complete. It felt like we really got input from everyone. It was just it just felt like a really good finale overall. It gave us everything I wanted in a finale. You had a lot of time for the jury to speak. You had a lot of time for the pre-jury to speak. I mean, it was just a really well done finale. This was the complete opposite. Everything just felt like it was on speed dial, pretty much. Everything was like that, especially when it comes to these first few comps. I mean, we very quickly get through the first part of the HOH, which Tyler does end up winning. Admittedly wasn't really something I was all that impressed with. Usually the part one, it's a lot more grueling physically. It involves them hanging on a rope, and they were on a jetpack or whatever, and sure, that's tough, but it just didn't seem like that bad of a competition. It seemed like a lot of the competitions earlier in the season were a lot more vicious and things like that, but it was still cool to see Tyler pull off the win. I was happy to see that happen, and I was happy for him overall. We then quickly transition to part 2, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually did like the way this part 2 was done. It was one of those classic, what did this house guest say? However, it was questions based on the house guests, and Kaycee does end up winning part 2 of this. JC is pretty much non-existent in this finale. JC had almost nothing to do in this entire finale. He had a brief speech with Julie. He had his interview here and there, but we'll get into that obviously. But JC, Kaycee does, of course, end up winning this round 2, and that's basically what ends up happening there, and that's really it. We very quickly went through it, and again, compared to last season where we actually got that really great scene where we got a good look at these top 3, and we saw why they were in the top 3, what they're really trying to do, why they want to win. That was stuff we really got in the finale. We didn't get any of that here. We quickly zoom through each of these competitions, and the whole thing just felt really rushed and messy and very badly put together, and it just was very disappointing overall. However, nothing was more disappointing than the jury roundtable, because I was actually really excited to see this jury roundtable. It was made up of some very interesting characters from the season. You know, you had Brett, you had Bayleigh, obviously you had Haleigh, who before kind of seemed like the voice of reason, so I was very interested in seeing what was going to happen. And look, I'm not saying that this roundtable was bad, far from it. There were other things this episode that were a lot worse, but this roundtable gave me basically nothing. You know, they did a good job, I guess, at being very objective and trying to, you know, get into every person's gameplay. However, the person that was easily, I think, the most biased was Angela. I mean, anytime someone brought up Kaycee, anytime someone brought up JC, she's like, well, yeah, they did that, but not as good as Tyler. Yeah, they did that, but not as good as Tyler. And I don't think Angela realizes how disliked she really is on the jury, and how no matter what she says about Tyler, the more she says about him, the less likely they really are to vote for him. You know, she really is gunning for him, and I think this is really going to accentuate, you know, their desire to not vote for Tyler. You know, I think Angela's a big reason why what ends up happening tonight did end up happening. And look, I did like a lot of the comps that Angela did pull off, but she could have been a lot, you know, she could have played this game a lot differently. She did not have good jury management at all. She was very blunt with what she said, and there's nothing wrong with that, but again, she had really poor jury management. She always made people look dumb. She always looked like she, you know, was the laugh, you know, she always made sure she got the last laugh, and I do think that very much did cost her. I really did like the, you know, the game she did play with level 6. She was very loyal and things like that, but I think this episode very well did show why she is not in that final 3, you know, why she is gone, because I think if Tyler had taken her to final 2, things definitely would have played out a lot differently, and I think I honestly, after this, I would have much rather have preferred a Tyler and Angela final 2, because based on what Angela was saying, it just would have been a lot more interesting, and probably would have actually been really entertaining, given how, like I said, blunt and, you know, not give, and how less of a shit she really does give when it comes to talking to people. She doesn't care what they think of her. She speaks her mind, and we very much did see that here. But aside from that, they really didn't have much of anything to do in terms of the jury. I forgot that Dr. Will was there. The best part with Dr. Will, the one part I did really like, is when Bayleigh said that, you know, there have been tons of winners on this couch before, and most of them are evil, and then we, like, slowly panned to Dr. Will, like, giving her this face. That was great. I love that. But other than that, there was, like, nothing memorable about this roundtable whatsoever. Look, I wasn't expecting them to fight. You know, I wasn't expecting, like, a full-on, like, fight, but I was expecting a little more chaos, and this was, like, very much toned down, much more than expected, and I just didn't really get what I wanted out of this roundtable. I just wasn't very satisfied, and that's really how I feel with this entire finale overall. I really did not feel very satisfied by it, and I think the roundtable, like I said, really does represent how I felt about, you know, really was a reflection of how I felt about this entire finale overall. So at this point in the episode, I thought, okay, things are kind of rushed, you know, things are kind of messy, but maybe the ending's really going to prove for it. Maybe we're setting up a really interesting, you know, final 3. Maybe it's going to be a really good part 3. And look, I actually really did like the concept of this third part. You know, it's the classic thing where we do ask the jury their favorite thing, but we don't do that. We don't do, you know, they're not asking them questions. Instead, it's basically, since the theme of the season was technology, they're not on the scale, which I personally am fine with. I never really liked that scale, to be honest. I always thought it was just kind of obnoxious and got very repetitive after a while. I wasn't a huge fan of it, so I did like that it was more of like a quiz show style format. That's kind of what it looked like to me. But this dragged on and on and on, and I did like the concept of it being like each jury member's like individual podcast, and they're talking about their time on Big Brother and things like that. You know, one of them was like, Haleigh was doing like a makeup tutorial, Brett was doing like a sports podcast, I think same with Fessy. So it was cool to see that. I definitely did enjoy that overall. It's just, for me, you know, this just took forever. And look, it was really cool seeing how close these two really were. I cannot recall a time where I have seen this close of a, I've seen this close of a win. Like, they were literally off by a point, and Kaycee does end up winning this final HOH, which I was a little bit surprised about. I thought for sure that Tyler would do it, but it was pretty obvious to me that he was trying to throw it, and I think that was a good move on his part, having Kaycee take it and not him, because I think he knew that Kaycee would end up taking him to the final three. However, I wasn't actually sure what Kaycee was going to do at first, because the way that she was presenting herself with Tyler, she seemed a little bit bittersweet, kind of like, okay, I gotta make this move. Like, he was talking about how loyal they were in level 6, and the way that she was looking at him, she had this look of, kind of like an apologetic look, like I'm about to do something, and it seemed like she was about to do it. She was about to take Tyler out, but no, she takes the easy way out. JC is out of the game, and I mean, he already kind of was. He's been a non-entity this entire episode. The interview with Julie, I don't even remember. He was just kind of, fine with it all. And that's the thing. Like, again, they really did not do a good job of getting into this final three. We really didn't get to see who, I mean, we know who they are, but I'm just thinking back to last season, and again, this is like one of the only times I'm going to say the last season was better, but last season did have the better finale. They got us more into who they all were. We had that really great segment, I remember, with Christmas and her trying to pull through her injury, and there was nothing like that here. JC was just not a part of this finale at all, and I do think that was a big mistake here. But going back to what Kaycee did, at first I thought this is really foolish of you to do. I mean, especially considering that Kaycee, she won that final HOH, and she really did everything she possibly could, I think, to actually prove to the jury why she deserved to win. She had those comp wins, she had a very good social game, the jury really did seem to like her, and honestly, I would have been more impressed if she would have just sent Tyler out. And considering what ended up happening, I don't think it would have changed her game all that much. But at this point, I'm like, okay, Kaycee, you just cost yourself the game, you just pulled a Cody, it's definitely not the right thing to do. Then, of course, we get to the actual jury questioning, which I don't know what this was. This was a fucking mess, honestly. Not only is this the first jury in the longest time where I did not see Julie introduce them as they walked to the stage. Like, she literally had them sitting there once we came back, and she just quickly introduced everyone. But the questions were incredibly rushed. We did not really get to hear a thorough response from any of them because Julie kept cutting them off. Like, there were so many times in this episode where, Kaycee or Tyler had a really good thought, and Julie was like, oh, sit down, we gotta go. Like, she kept reiterating what we're supposed to do, and it's like, Julie, we've watched a Big Brother finale before. I know you're under pressure from everything, but we've watched a Big Brother finale before. It's okay. We know how this works, okay? Keep it together. Like, I have never seen Julie this adamant to end a finale, and again, I don't know if it's because of all the drama that's going on in her life. I don't know if the people in her ear were just, getting on her ass about things being too long, but, like, she's not the one who decided to run, like, 700 commercials, during the commercial breaks. Like, honestly, I think there was more commercials than there were show. It was ridiculous. Like, this entire thing was so rushed. I can't tell you a single thing that Kaycee said because it was so rushed. Tyler, on the other hand, here's where I think he went wrong. He focused solely on this power app that he got and a lot of things he did, but he didn't trace it back to things he did earlier in the week. He brought up people that were on the jury, like Bayleigh and JC and Angela. Like, he brought up the obvious ones, but he didn't bring up the ones that he was trying to work with. Like, he did have something with Haleigh at first. He did have something with Fessy at first. He could have even brought up Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn was a major part of his game. A big reason why Tyler is still in the house is because of Kaitlyn. If he would have stayed allied with Kaitlyn, he would have left a lot sooner. But again, people felt bad for Tyler because of what happened with Kaitlyn, and she really did contribute, she really did a lot of the dirty work for him earlier on in the season, and again, he just completely left that out of his questioning, and I think that was definitely a huge mistake of him. I understand the power app was something that was, obviously it was given to him, and it did very much help him in the game, but that's not the main point he needed to focus on. He needed to focus on, like I said, getting out Kaitlyn, and especially being a super fan. That's something that a lot of them would have been able to relate to, and he did, but he very quickly went through it. And again, I do think this stems back to the fact this finale was way too rushed, but in general, I don't think he really was able to get those points that he really wanted to here, and it sucks because I do think Tyler played an exceptional game this season. He did such a great job at really making everyone feel comfortable, really making them feel he was on their side until it was the end of the game. And prior to the roundtable, everyone seemed alright with Tyler. It didn't really seem like they were that bitter about it, and I wouldn't say this jury was bitter. Like, I would not say that's the case. Like, I don't think the jury was bitter. I think it's simply because they had no time to really say anything, that they just simply picked, you know, whoever just sounded better, because Tyler's was very, because let's face it, Tyler's speeches was extremely rambled, Kaycee's speech was extremely rambled. They both had very incoherent speeches, and I think that really was the biggest problem here. I can't really, like I said, say anything that Tyler said in his final speech. Kaycee's final speech was all kinds of all over the place. She referred to the fact that she was like a, you know, a peanut. She kept saying "let's go" every 5 seconds. They're really trying to endorse that "let's go" catchphrase, and honestly, I've had enough of it. I honestly would not be surprised if we come out of this season, there are fucking t-shirts that say "let's go" on them. Like, that's how many times they said "let's go" in this episode. It's ridiculous. But yeah, this jury questioning, it was all kinds of all over the place. It was so rushed, and probably some of the worst I have seen, maybe the worst I have seen in any Big Brother season. Like, I have seen jury questionings that are rushed, but nothing like this. I have not seen Julie, you know, constantly cutting off each of the players and not really giving them any time to speak whatsoever, and I really do think this is a huge missed opportunity that really could have been, I think, the thing that really did save Tyler's game overall. So then, of course, we get to the thing that I always hate about these 90-minute finales, the return of the pre-jury, or the lack of, mind you, because, oh, we're gonna bring back the pre-jury, but we're only really gonna focus on the things that you really care about this season, and those are the showmances, and not Tyler and Angela. Like, sure, that was a thing, but we're gonna focus on the ones that really weren't all that important. Fessy and Haleigh apparently is a thing now. I don't know how. Haleigh seems so disinterested in him throughout the entire season that I'm genuinely convinced that they coaxed her into saying it just because, you know, if she said no, it just would have been really awkward and people would not have enjoyed that. So yeah, I don't think Fessy and Haleigh have something outside of this game. I honestly really don't. I think Haleigh has made it very clear that she's not interested. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, I've said this about many other showmances. I said this about, you know, I said this about Paulie and Zakiya coming out of Big Brother 18. They were together for a while, I think. You know, I said this about quite a few showmances here and there, and they do last greater than I expected them to. Hell, who would have thought Nicole and Victor would have had something in Big Brother 18? You know, who would have thought that happened? But I personally did not care about this. And then, of course, the icing on the cake. Bayleigh and Swaggy. And look, I really did like these two. I think Swaggy could have really been a really great player had he stayed a little bit longer. But come on, I mean, he's proposing to Bayleigh, and he's known her for 23 days, because he literally goes to her, he says, oh, this is the same position that we were in at this time, I told you I love you, and I realized that being your girlfriend, being your boyfriend wasn't enough, and he literally gets down on one knee and proposes to her. He proposes to her after knowing her for 23 days. What is going on here? Honestly, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. There's no way this is actually going to work. Like I said, they've literally known each other for 23 days. I know Big Brother time, it feels a lot, you know, it feels a lot more than that, but in general, I mean, this was just so ridiculous, and especially the fact that we literally had 12 minutes left until the finale ended, and this is what we're focusing on. I just think it's ridiculous. And sure, if we had a 2-hour finale, I would have been like, okay, that's fine. And look, I don't think they would have been able to stop Swaggy either way. I think he was going to do it no matter what. But I just think that, you know, this was there was really no time for this. Everything was very rushed, and in the end, we do in fact get to the winner, and the winner does end up being Kaycee, and I am not really all that surprised here, to be honest. I thought, you know, always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I really hope Tyler wins, but considering the way the last few seasons have played out, Kaycee does end up winning. Tyler's not empty-handed, though. He does get America's favorite player, which, again, I guess the whole final two not being qualified, I guess that's done now. I guess that's not a thing anymore. Good for Tyler. We end the season with Julie telling us to watch Celebrity Big Brother, and that's really how we do wrap everything up. And, oh my god, I mean, where do I even begin with this finale? I mean, this was just so incredibly rushed, and I know the review itself was rushed, but that's how the entire episode was. Everything was full speed ahead. Everything felt like it was on, like, you know, it felt like it was on, it basically felt like Big Brother on ecstasy. Like, that's what this entire finale felt like. It felt like everything was condensed to, like, a 20-minute episode, and that really did piss me off overall, because like I said, if this would have been a 2-hour finale, I think we could have gotten a lot more out of it, for sure. I think we could have gotten more of the final three. We definitely could have gotten more speeches from Tyler and Kaycee that were a lot more memorable, because honestly what they said, I don't really remember. I only remember a few bullet points here and there. You know, we definitely could have gotten more with JC, who, like I said, was such a non-entity in this finale, and especially the Showmances. Just give it a rest. Like, this was the first season in a while that didn't really focus all that much on a showmance. It did at the end with Tyler and Angela, but for most of the season, we didn't have some showmance, as the driving force of the season. This is the first season I can remember in a while where that wasn't really a huge story. You know, last season was completely taken up by the romances, and this season not as much. Like, sure, they were there, but again, they weren't as prominent in the game as they have been other seasons until, of course, the third act with, you know, half of the season with Tyler and Angela. But up till then, that wasn't really there, and the fact that Julie was spending so much time on it, it's like nobody cares. Like, literally nobody cares. There's so many other things we could have gotten into. Tyler didn't even bring up the fact that he was the one that convinced Kaitlyn to backdoor Swaggy. Immediately, this would have gotten people to be like, yeah, Tyler needs to win. Like, that really did set the course for this entire season, and nobody really brought that up, and again, I think that was a huge missed opportunity overall. Just tons of stuff in this finale that really did let me down, between the very poor jury questioning. The jury roundtable overall was very unsatisfying. The rush comps, I mean, the only thing that felt really fleshed out was that third comp, and even at that, it was really boring because it was such a close game. And sure, in theory, that is very riveting, but it didn't lead to anything. You know, Kaycee ended up taking Tyler. Kaycee wins the game. Good for her. Look, I will say this about Kaycee. Socially and, you know, comp-wise, obviously she played a really good game, you know, especially winning all those back-to-back vetoes. I mean, that's unheard of. That is insane that she was able to win as much as she did. But you can't tell me she did better than Tyler. You can't tell me that she deserved this more than Tyler, because she absolutely didn't. You know, most of this was through the encouragement of Tyler. A lot of the time, Kaycee didn't even realize that this was an individual game. It very much seemed like she thought this was a team sport, and, you know, cool for her that she ends up winning, but I am not looking forward to more Kaycee players in the future, because this is probably the future of Big Brother now. It kind of sucks. I don't really like players like this that don't really do much of anything. And again, Kaycee didn't really do anything inherently wrong, because obviously she won the game, but they're just not very interesting to watch. And considering all the work that Tyler did, the fact that he didn't win this, I think, is honestly kind of disgraceful, and I think was a huge loss, and especially coming off of Paul's incredibly poor jury management last season. This was such an improvement, and it ended in such a unsatisfactory manner, and that really did, I think, that really did bring this entire episode down for me. That being said, though, as disappointing this finale was, which, like I said, this was an awful finale, season-wise, yeah, this was definitely one of the Big Brother seasons, better Big Brother seasons we've had in quite a while. Not only was the season very entertaining to watch, we had a lot of really memorable house guests, but we had a house that was split. A lot of the votes weren't unanimous. The first, I believe, 7 weeks weren't unanimous at all. It wasn't until later in the game when that started to happen. You know, there was a lot of people being betrayed. There were a lot of people that left in a huff. We all remember the great Rachel eviction. We all remember the really great, you know, Swaggy eviction. There was a lot of great backdoors this season, and I really love the blind sides. That's stuff that I really did enjoy, and Level 6 absolutely is one of the best alliances, I think, in this entire show. They were so loyal to each other. The fact that they were able to pull things off, I mean, nobody thought Level 6 was going to go as far as they did. Most times you do lose one along the way, and sure, they did lose Rachel and Winston, but I think it was honestly to their benefit. You know, those were people that were standing in their way. Those were people that were making them targets, and by getting them out, you know, once they got down to level 4, they were really able to control the game and really dominate everything. I mean, they won 20 comps, which is just insane. I've never seen an alliance have this much influence in the game, have this much of a hand in everything, especially Tyler. He had a hand in everything this season. That's something that I really did love about this season overall. You had some really great game players that were very level-headed, that really did stay on top of things, and that's something I really did love. The problem where the season does falter for me is that despite the fact that we did have a split house, which I really do love, the other side of the house was honestly really dumb and were very hard to root for. And look, I'm one of those people, I've said so many times, I don't like to root for people. I like to root for I don't like to root for just one person. I like to root for as many people as possible. I love the Big Brother seasons where you don't really know who's going to win throughout it. Like, sure, there might be a Vanessa or a Tyler or, you know, a Derek dominating the game, but there are other ancillary players that also do have a chance. And sure, we did have that this season, but most of them did reside in level 6. The Faute side of things, forget about it. These guys were complete idiots. I mean, not only did they vote each other out, they believed everything that Tyler said. Anytime one of them had some sort of good intuition, like Haleigh, for example, they would immediately make the worst decision possible, and it was very hard to root for them. And I understand that, like, sure, that's what Level 6 was trying to do, but it was very frustrating. There were so many times where I'm like, yes, Haleigh, you're doing the right thing. And look, it's not because, you know, I don't want to see good gameplay. I absolutely do, but it just made things kind of boring because, again, Faute was so gullible with everything. They believed everything that Tyler said. They believed that Scottie was always on their radar, which he really wasn't. It was only really that 1 week when he went rogue. They always believed that, you know, Brett was loyal to them. Even at the very end, obviously, Tyler was eventually able to convince Haleigh otherwise. But that didn't even really go anywhere. Like, that, they still thought Brett was on their side for the most part. You know, there were tons of players that could have been a lot better. And again, I think Haleigh especially could have been a lot better had she not allied with Rockstar and Fessy. Definitely could have been a much better spot in the game. And like I said, those last 5 to 6 weeks really did bring things down for me. I think that this game, it just got very repetitive. It got very boring, and the whole factor of the, you know, not knowing who was going to leave and not knowing what was going to happen, the unpredictability very much did start to wane, and it got very easy to tell what was going on throughout every passing week. And again, that's a fine season. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And you guys may think I'm being a bit overly critical, but just for me, I would much rather see a season of Big Brother that's entertaining than one that is, you know, constantly you know, that constantly is going in their way. And I'm happy that things did turn out well for Level 6, obviously. I am not at all taking away from the work that they did, because it truly is unparalleled. I mean, I've never seen Alliance dominate this game that much. Like, sure, there have been some alliances where they've lost one along the way, but they were really able to strengthen it in a way I really haven't seen other alliances do in quite a while. But I just really was hoping the opposition was a lot stronger, and unfortunately it wasn't. Again, though, I will give this season this. I would much rather take players that really want to play the game, that may not be very good, over players that are just there for exposure. And that's where this season really does stand out amongst the others. This, for me, is pretty much on par with Celebrity Big Brother. It did get us back into the game overall. You know, it showed us some players that were really great. It didn't have a ton of, like I said, people just wanting to play for money. You know, Showmances were not dominating the season. The players that were there, even the ones that weren't very good, they wanted to play the game. They really wanted to play the game. Okay, maybe Fessy didn't want to play the game, but most of the players this season, they wanted to play the game. Whether they were hurt emotionally or not, they tried to play the game. I love the fact that a lot of this season were different HOHs almost every single week. I've never seen that happen within a season. Most times it's like the same 3 people every week, and this year that was like completely different. It was someone, I'm pretty sure almost every single house guest had a chance to win HOH, which is completely unheard of. I've never seen that before. Not Brett, not Rachel, not Swaggy, but there were quite a few. Not Winston, obviously, but most of the house did get HOH at least once, and you rarely do see that happen. I thought that was very cool to see overall. This was a very refreshing season. I will definitely say that. I like the cast a lot. It was very entertaining. There were some really great moments going on. There are some that I think are definitely top Big Brother moments for sure. I mean, anything that Kaitlyn did was just spectacular. I do very much agree that, you know, Kaitlyn's eviction kind of screwed them over. I think definitely they had a lot more planned, and I think that a lot of like the double eviction and things like that would not have felt nearly as rushed as it ended up being, and I don't think these weeks would have been nearly as slow and boring as they really were. But I do think that it still was, you know, good to watch. It wasn't like last season where it was a slog to get through. It really was only a couple episodes here and there where it was like that. Most of the season I was overall enjoying it. Most of the season I was rooting for the people. And like I said, I do think that the final 3 is probably one of the better final 3s we've had in a while. There really were not too many coasters this season. There's really only Sam and a couple others, but most of the people this season, again, regardless of if they were good or not, they came to play, and I very much do like that. I will very much praise them for that, even if some of them were really dumb. Fessy, you know, I do think that they did do a pretty stellar job in casting the people this season. It's definitely much better than the other Big Brother seasons we've had. It's one of the better, it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a season that I really did overall enjoy. I don't think it's one of the best. I will definitely say that. Big Brother 17 is just a little bit better for me based on the gameplay and based on how entertaining it truly was. Because again, I like great gameplay, but I want great gameplay, but I also want to be entertained. And that season gave me both. This season, throughout the first 2 halves gave me that, but the third half I think just kind of petered out for me, and it never really recovered, and especially coming off this finale, it really did kind of lower it overall, but I still did enjoy the season. There are definitely some people here that I would absolutely want to see again if they were on All-Stars, and especially when compared to last year, where I barely liked anyone. That is definitely a huge improvement here. I don't know what the status is of Big Brother after this season. They're saying they're coming back, but I didn't see any renewal or anything. But if this is the last season for a while, or whatever ends up happening there, this was definitely a better way to show that Big Brother has not lost steam. They definitely are still able to get people that want to play the game, and I think they did a very good job with that overall this season. So with all that said, I am going to give Big Brother 20 overall a B-. And that's really where we come to an end here. Big Brother 20 is now over. Again, I know a lot of you are like, Kevin, why are you so bitter? I just wanted more. I'm sorry. I wanted more, and this finale just did not deliver for me. It was very boring. It was very... I wouldn't even say boring's the word, honestly, because it was just so fast-paced, and very just rushed. Nothing really felt delved into. Nothing really felt like it got the proper care or treatment that it deserved. And I do think that that very much would have disservice to the entire season, which I was really hoping would, again, you know, it would remind me why I enjoyed the first two halves of this game as much as I really did. But overall, guys, that's really it for my review of this season of Big Brother. Let me know what you guys saw this season overall, left your thoughts. And like I said, definitely a much better season than the past two for sure. Not much competition there, but definitely a much better season in my eyes. Very excited to see how Celebrity Big Brother does go. I'm hearing that it's going to be a little bit earlier this year in January, which is cool. Excited to see how that does play out, but that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching my Big Brother reviews all season long. Very much do appreciate it. I know I got them out a little bit later this year, but I've just been very busy this summer and things like that. I have not been able to put them out as quick as possible, but I very much do appreciate you guys sticking around for my reviews. I appreciate your feedback and all that kind of stuff. Would love to hear what you guys thought of this season. What did you think of the finale overall? What did you think of Kaycee winning? What did you think of Tyler winning AFP? All that kind of stuff. What did you think of that really weird proposal? All that kind of stuff I really do want to hear your thoughts on. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.